Final ending to Let Loose, other parts down below. We covered all the essentials in our conversation. I shared details about my role at Tim's business, and she talked about her part-time position at a local car dealership, focusing on vehicle titles. Her mother, a legal secretary, was the main breadwinner since her father left when Holly was just 5. She never saw him again and grew up as an only child. I filled her in on the dissolution of my marriage, presenting the gritty details of its downfall. She was visibly disturbed by Paulen's actions, but seemed less impressed with how I managed the situation with Karen and Wendy. Admitting it aloud made me realize I wasn't proud of my reactions either. Reflecting on it, Paulen had a point about them just going through their teenage years, and I acknowledged I should have been more mature in handling it. That was something I needed to work on. I deliberately steered clear of the topic regarding her being 4 months pregnant without a partner. It wasn't my place to judge or pry into such personal matters. When her phone rang, I excused myself to give her some privacy for the call with her mom. It was a serene night, the gentle breeze and the cloud-veiled moonlight setting a thoughtful ambience. Alone outside, my mind wandered to the charming woman inside, contemplating the possibility of opening up to someone new after years of solitude post-divorce. The thought of spending my days alone, embittered by past betrayal, was unsettling. I recognized the need to calm the storm Paulen still stirred within me. After her call, Holly signaled it was okay to return. We spent the evening deep in conversation, purposely avoiding the subject of her pregnancy. The time flew by, and soon it was midnight, prompting us to end our night. She saw me to the door, where we shared a quick, tender kiss and planned for me to return the next day. The drive home felt euphoric, and that night, I slept soundly. Arriving at her place the next morning around 9 a.m., I brought breakfast from a nearby cafe, not minding the expense. I waited at her doorstep, excited to see her again, knowing she was navigating around with crutches. Holly greeted me, looking as if she had just woken up, her curly hair tousled, and dressed casually in a nightshirt, hinting at a relaxed morning ahead. My curiosity as a man wandered briefly, but I focused on the warmth of her welcome and the day we had planned together. "Can't believe you're up with the sun every day," she remarked, blinking against the morning light, a grin spreading across her face. "It's part of the gig. Construction kicks off at the crack of dawn." Honestly, I was just killing time until it seemed reasonable to show up. "Yes, I can let it slide since you came bearing breakfast," she conceded. After a quick, warm exchange of affection, I got busy laying out breakfast while she found her way to a seat, moving carefully. She couldn't stop praising the breakfast spread, which didn't surprise me. I had been to that spot before and knew it wouldn't disappoint. I floated the idea of taking a drive through the countryside. Despite having been in North Carolina for a few months, my explorations had been limited to work and occasional gatherings at Tim's. And that's exactly what we did. The day was perfect, filled with laughter and discoveries. We dropped by a museum, grateful for the motorized carts that spared her the trouble of walking. Lunch was at a quaint diner, followed by hours of simple pleasure, sitting in a park we stumbled upon. It was soothing, and I felt her frequent, gentle touches, whether it was her hand finding mine or her shoulder leaning against me. By the evening, she was visibly fatigued, and her leg was bothering her. I prepared a bath for her, making sure her brace was protected with plastic. While she soaked, I kept myself busy, then assisted her to bed afterwards. We planned for me to visit again after work the next day. Normally, she would work Mondays, but she decided to take a few days off to recover. I brought tacos from a beloved local spot, and our evening unfolded with more conversation. I massaged her uninjured foot as we chatted, and she gradually fell asleep. I tucked her in, intending to leave quietly. As I was about to exit, she sleepily thanked me and mentioned her mother would be returning the next day. It took me a moment to realize she probably meant she wouldn't need my company with her mother around. I left, puzzling over our time together as I headed to my car. The following evening found me at home, preparing for a night in with a World War II documentary and the dubious pleasure of a frozen dinner, when my phone interrupted the silence. "Hello, where are you?" came Holly's gentle inquiry. "Just at my place. Why weren't you here?" "I was expecting you," she asked, a tone of disappointment in her voice. "I was under the impression you preferred I didn't come because your mom was arriving." "You mentioned it just as I was leaving yesterday," I replied, feeling a bit puzzled. "Ugh, why are men so clueless sometimes? I told you that so you'd brace yourself for meeting her. We've been looking forward to having you over." "All right, I'm on my way then." Holly welcomed me at the door with a warm hug and a gentle kiss. This could definitely grow on me, I mused. As I entered, I saw Holly's mom, Barbara, carrying dishes to the table. At first glance, you could mistake them for sisters, despite the years between them. Barbara shared Holly's vibrant blonde curls, albeit hers were more tame. She was fit, her figure barely distinguishable from Holly's. Approaching to introduce myself, expecting a polite handshake, Barbara surprised me by setting my hand aside for a welcoming hug and a kiss on the cheek. "It's wonderful to meet you, Sam. Holly hasn't stopped talking about you." "It's a pleasure, Ms. Ellison." "Oh, please, call me Barbara. And just so you know, Ellison is Holly's surname, not mine. I'm a Smith, thanks to my latest husband. He was my third, and just so we're clear, I'm not looking for a fourth." Catching Holly's eye, she just shrugged off her mother's upfront nature. It seemed best to clear the air early. Once I freshened up, we gathered for dinner. Barbara served a hearty stuffed pasta with garlic bread on the side, the garlic freshly chopped, a small but appreciated detail. I'm sorry for the confusion, Barbara. I misunderstood Holly's message about you coming home, thinking my visit might be inconvenient. Don't worry about it, Sam. These things happen. I was just eager to finally meet the man Holly's been seeing. Catching Holly's glance as Barbara mentioned boyfriend, she offered me a reassuring smile. Holly's shared quite a bit about you. You're in the construction business. I'm with Durham Commercial Services. While some of our work involves construction, like drywall, we also handle pest control, electrical, and plumbing tasks. It's more about maintaining homes than building them, really. Do you find satisfaction in your work? I enjoy working with my hands, and my boss has mentioned the possibility of me stepping up as a project manager soon. And what about you? What do you do for a living? I'm a legal secretary. I work closely with the senior partners, which means a lot of late nights and quite a bit of travel. Thanks, by the way, for being there for Holly when she was in need. It was no trouble at all, Barbara. It's been quite some time since I've had someone to look after. As the conversation drifted, I found myself momentarily lost in thoughts of my past, the memories of my own family briefly casting a shadow over my mood. I think I managed to pull myself together quickly, but not before Holly and Barbara caught a glimpse of my lapse. The dinner conversation flowed easily, and afterwards, I took care of the cleanup. As the evening wound down, Holly and Barbara seemed to be wrapping up their night, and then Barbara approached me. I'm feeling pretty worn out, so I'll be heading to bed. Traveling does take its toll more these days. It was lovely meeting you, she said, offering a warm hug and a peck on the cheek before she retired to her room. The house, a cozy two-bedroom affair, had Barbara staying in the master suite, while Holly used the other room. With the house quieting down, Holly suggested watching a movie on Netflix. We settled into the deep couch, comfortably sharing the space. Positioned slightly behind her, I was more captivated by her presence than the romantic flick on screen. The subtle scent of jasmine from her, and the elegant bun revealing her neck, drew my attention. Gently, I wrapped my arm around her, our hands finding each other. In a moment of tenderness, I leaned closer, my actions speaking softly as I kissed the base of her neck. Holly responded, shifting slightly to welcome my affection. The gentle pressure of her hand in mine was reassuring. As time passed, she ran her fingers through my hair, a gesture of intimacy. I found myself gently caressing her, a motion that brought back memories of moments shared with Paulen. Holly's soft acknowledgement encouraged me, her warmth inviting a closer connection. We continued to enjoy each other's company, the movie long forgotten, as we shared this quiet, intimate. I spent a good while just holding her close, tracing gentle patterns across her skin, making her shiver lightly every now and then. Eventually, she shifted so she was lying on her back, a playful smile dancing on her lips, accompanied by a soft chuckle. "What's so funny?" I inquired, curious about her amusement. She laughed a bit more before replying. "I was just thinking about how we've had the whole place to ourselves for 3 days, and you decide to make your move just as my mom comes back." I couldn't help but chuckle at that. It was kind of amusing. "Well, to be fair, I didn't know I was officially your boyfriend until your mom mentioned it earlier." "Oh, you definitely are," she affirmed with a teasing smile, sealing her words with a kiss. As we continued to embrace, I gently caressed her, feeling the warmth of her skin beneath my fingertips. Our kiss deepened, a testament to the connection between us. I let my hand wander, lightly grazing over her, a silent question hanging in the air between us. Experience has taught me that boundaries are crucial, and any advance should be tentative, a gentle inquiry rather than a bold leap. It's always best to proceed with care, ensuring comfort and consent at every step. My careful exploration was met with a soft moan, an invitation to continue. I ventured further with the utmost respect and care, always mindful of her reactions. "Is this okay?" I whispered, pausing to ensure I was not overstepping. Her response was a warm laugh, filled with ease and comfort. "Yes, it's more than okay." The moment was intimate and tender, a shared connection that deepened our bond. We continued to explore this new dimension of our relationship with mutual respect and affection, ensuring each other's comfort. In that moment, it felt like the world had narrowed down to just the two of us. The comfort of the loose maternity wear gave me the flexibility I needed, allowing me to tenderly explore and share a moment of intimacy with Holly. The warmth of our closeness grew, a testament to the connection we were deepening. I could sense her excitement building, a crescendo that was both silent and expressive, her reaction a clear sign of the shared joy. As Holly's laughter of joy quietly filled the room, I couldn't help but feel a profound sense of connection. The silent exchange of looks between us spoke volumes, her smile a silent approval of the moment we'd shared. "That was amazing, Sam." "Thank you," she whispered, her gratitude echoing the depth of our bond. "I assure you, the pleasure was all mine," I responded, my words sincere. We lingered in the afterglow, our gentle touches a silent conversation, an affirmation of the joy in giving without the expectation of receiving. The happiness in just being together was enough, a sentiment I had always cherished. But then, to my surprise and delight, Holly whispered, "Now it's your turn." The simplicity of her gesture, the unfastening of my jeans, felt like an invitation to further intimacy, a mutual exploration of connection. As I adjusted to assist her, the anticipation was palpable. Her admiration, whispered softly, was both humbling and heartwarming, a reflection of the beauty found in intimate moments. As we repositioned, facing each other with a newfound closeness, the world seemed to pause. Our kisses, deep and meaningful, were punctuated by the tender exploration of touch, a dance of affection that heightened the sense of connection. The rhythm of her hand, the intensity of our kisses evolving, led to a moment of culmination, a shared climax that was both intensely personal and deeply connective. In the aftermath, the tender act of Holly spreading the warmth of our moment across her was not just a physical act but a symbol of something profound and beautiful. A moment of connection, intimacy, and shared vulnerability that transcended the physical. It felt really good. The credits were still playing on the TV as we lay together, basking in a warm, contented haze. Minutes turned into an hour, and I slowly stirred from a light doze. Gently waking Holly, we shared tender kisses and soft caresses, a quiet affection filling the space between us. "You should probably head home. You've got work tomorrow," Holly's voice cut through the calm. I knew she was right, yet the thought of leaving her side was unappealing. I was ready to face an early morning just to spend a few more moments together. Eventually, she made the choice easier for us both by gently moving to sit up. I mirrored her actions, fixing my jeans as she slipped her top over her head. We made our way to the front door, and as I reached for the knob, she tenderly turned my face towards hers. "See you tomorrow." "Absolutely." Our lips met in a final farewell kiss, and then I stepped out into the night. Glancing back, I saw her in the doorway, waving as I fired up my truck and drove off. I couldn't help but hope I wasn't being overly hopeful. The night before felt like a gentle exploration, a way to get to know each other better. Despite needing to leave for work, I wanted to avoid a repeat and packed an extra set of clothes for the next day, just in case. I decided to keep that to myself unless Holly mentioned it. Upon my arrival, Barbara welcomed me, and I settled next to Holly on the couch. Dinner time surprised me with just 2 settings. Holly and I took our seats as Barbara excused herself, only to reappear ready for a night out. "In case Holly hasn't mentioned, I'm off on a date tonight. I'll see you in the morning. Enjoy your evening," Barbara said, leaving us to our night. Alone with Holly, I couldn't hide my curiosity. "Back in the morning," I echoed. "Honestly, Mom likes her freedom. She dates occasionally, always keeping things light and enjoyable. So, she's out to enjoy her evening." Absolutely, that meant we had the entire place to ourselves for the night. The look of mischief in her eyes didn't need words. "I've brought something more comfortable to change into." With a playful tug at my shirt, she drew me into a deep, heartfelt kiss, the likes of which I hadn't felt before. "Brilliant. Go get your things now, so we're all set for the evening." After fetching my bag from the car, I walked back into the house to find the living room bathed in a soft glow, with her lounging on the sofa. As I approached, I noticed she had opted for a more relaxed attire, inviting an even closer connection. "Tonight, I want us to share something special, Sam. Just us, truly connecting." Shedding my own layers, I joined her, embracing the moment's unhurried pace. Our kisses were deep, filled with a mutual longing and discovery. We moved in sync, exploring and expressing our affection with tender touches and whispered appreciations. "Though this couch has its charm, the bedroom might offer us a more comfortable space," I suggested. "Would you carry me there?" she asked with a soft smile. How could I resist? Gently placing her on the bed, I followed, starting with gentle kisses from her neck down. Pausing to appreciate the simple beauty of her, I continued, each kiss a promise of my dedication and affection. We lost ourselves in the moment, celebrating each other's pleasure with a focus and care that spoke volumes of our connection. Considering her comfort, especially given her minor injury, we adjusted our positions to ensure nothing but ease and closeness. The intimacy of our exchange was profound, not just in the physical sense but in the trust and tenderness we shared. Her dedication to our moment together was clear, her care in avoiding any discomfort for me was evident. We laughed softly together, enjoying the playful banter and the deep, comforting connection that only grew stronger with each shared smile and touch. "Let's take our time, there's no rush," she whispered, a reminder of the night that was ours to fill with memories. She helped me relax and then sparked my excitement anew. She skillfully brought me to a high point 3 more times, choosing to finish with a flourish that seemed to become her signature move. Soon enough, she had me ready for more, a feat that admittedly would have taken longer on my own. Age was catching up to me. I was nearing 40, while Holly was a vibrant 31. When she was ready, she positioned herself carefully, mindful of making it comfortable for both of us. She guided me gently, and we moved together in a rhythm that felt as natural as breathing. Our shared moans filled the room, a testament to our connection. In our exploration, we changed our positioning, always considering her comfort. Holly wanted to maintain eye contact, which added an intimate layer to our connection. I proceeded with care, especially mindful of her comfort, but at her encouragement, our passion intensified. Our night wasn't a marathon, but the moments we shared were filled with genuine affection, something far beyond my previous fleeting encounters. The days that followed were a blur of work and evenings spent with Holly, each night a discovery of mutual care and understanding, always mindful of her well-being. Despite the exhaustion, my spirits were high, carried by the joy of our connection. Work continued, with the days blending together, especially after Holly's accident. Our time was a mix of restful nights and those filled with quiet affection, balancing my growing weariness with the demands of my job. The usual pace of the job site was disrupted by the arrival of my coworkers, stirring a sense of déjà vu, but without the tension of past concerns. My focus remained clear, unclouded by past mistakes, though the undercurrents of workplace dynamics were ever present. To my surprise, Tim went inside the house where we were working, while Oscar hung back by the truck. He made rounds, greeting the crew and praising their hard work. Eventually, he made his way over to me, and I braced myself for what was next. "Got a minute, Sam?" I nodded and joined him a little away from the rest, curious but noting the absence of the usual breathalyzer in his pocket. "Everything okay, boss?" "Yeah, just making the rounds today and thought I'd see how you're holding up. Noticed you haven't been around for the last few gatherings, which is totally fine, by the way. Just wanted to check in on you." "I'm doing well, Tim. Actually, I've started seeing someone new." "That's fantastic, Sam. It's good to see you're moving on and rebuilding. How are things going with your kids?" "Well, that's part of why I wanted to talk. I need to take some time off soon. Planning to fly out and see them." "That's great to hear, Sam. Just let me know the dates and how long you'll need, and I'll make sure your work here is covered. I'll look into flights tonight and get back to you." The following Tuesday found me on a plane, hoping to spend some quality time with my daughters. I booked a slightly fancier hotel room with 2 queen beds, willing to do whatever it took to mend the bond that my actions had strained. As the plane sailed above the clouds, my mind drifted to Holly and our recent farewell. She had been a big help with my travel preparations, and despite her improving mobility, our connection had deepened. Our goodbye was tender, marked by a heartfelt kiss and a moment of closeness that felt like a promise of new beginnings. "I'm going to miss you, Sam. I have deep feelings for you." I got the sense she hesitated to meet my gaze as she shared her feelings for the first time. She had no reason to hesitate. Gently, I lifted her chin with my finger so our eyes could meet. "I have deep feelings for you too, Holly. I'll return as soon as possible." Her smile broadened, and she embraced me once more before I had to go. The warmth of that moment stayed with me all the way back to Austin. After landing in the afternoon, I grabbed a bite, checked into my hotel, and picked up a few essentials I thought I'd need. I figured the kids would be back from school around 4:30, followed by their usual routine of homework until dinner. I decided to stick with that schedule until I heard otherwise. By 5:15, I was parking in front of the house in my rental. Paulen's Toyota was there, along with an unfamiliar older Nissan, but Dave's car was missing, probably still at work. I half expected someone to greet me as I approached, but the house remained quiet. Perhaps they hadn't seen me, or maybe they were simply uninterested. Time would tell. I knocked and waited until a voice from inside responded. The door swung open to reveal Paulen, looking as lovely as ever. Yet, I realized I felt nothing for her now, a truth I couldn't have acknowledged before. She seemed shocked to see me, quickly coming forward to hug me. I might not have reciprocated if I had a choice, but she caught me off guard. "Sam, is it really you? Are you back for good? The kids will be so excited." She stepped back after a moment. "No, Paulen, I'm not back for good. Just here to see the kids." Her disappointment was palpable, though I figured it was more for the kids' sake than her own. I briefly wondered how her new relationship was faring but quickly dismissed the thought. "Oh, I see. They're just finishing up their homework. I'll call them." "Paulen, hold on. There's something I need to discuss with you first." She shut the door with a final click and faced me, an air of anticipation around her, as if bracing for something harsh to come from me. "Paulen, I need to apologize for how I acted on the phone before. You remember the conversation?" She gave a slight nod. "I was hurt, upset. You were not in your right mind." "Yeah, I wasn't thinking straight, and that's a bad mix. I've been reluctant to admit it, but you were right. I was barely able to look after myself then, much less our kids. But you didn't deserve to be spoken to that way, and I'm here to say I'm sorry." "Thanks, Sam. That means a lot. It was tough on all of us. Are you staying in town for a bit?" "I'm heading back on Sunday. I was hoping to spend a couple of days with the kids." "How about you keep them for the entire time you're here? I'll get them ready for a few days." "That would be great. Thanks, Paulen." "Sam, would you be up for a chat here tomorrow after you drop the kids off at school? Just the two of us." I saw this coming. Paulen always wanted to open up about it, probably to ease her own conscience, but it seemed like the right time for another heart-to-heart. Taking a deep breath, I agreed. "Yeah, Paulen, I'll come by." She read more into my agreement than I intended, her face lighting up with a hopeful smile. "Great, I'll see you tomorrow then. I'll go tell the kids to pack." It was only moments later when the front door flew open and my kids came barreling out, enveloping me in a hug that could rival any sports tackle. Their words tumbled out in a blur of sorries, "Forgive us," and "I love yous." Eventually, we all collapsed onto the lawn, me lying back with the kids piled on top. They seemed to have grown so much in such a short time. They were both speaking over each other, and I raised my hand for silence. Listen, you two have nothing to be sorry for, and you don't need my forgiveness. I was the grown-up, or at least, I was supposed to be, and what happened was on me. I had already lost your mom, and I thought I was losing you too. I didn't handle it well at all. Yeah, Dad, but we could have approached it differently, Wendy remarked. I suppose, but then we'd be letting down teenagers everywhere, I quipped, easing the mood. Look, we can dwell on who's to blame, or we can focus on moving forward. Your mom's okay with you staying until I head back on Sunday, so start packing. But Dad, this weekend. Let's not worry about this weekend, Paulen cut in sharply. Now, go pack. I watched the girls hurry away, waiting until they were out of earshot. This weekend? I inquired, turning to Paulen. Well, we had plans to take them to the lake this weekend. Dave's folks have a place there. It's nothing we can't reschedule. This is more pressing. Thanks, Paulen. I didn't mean to throw off your plans. She acknowledged with a nod, then went to check on the girls. I ensured the rental car could accommodate their luggage, and soon we were on our way. We checked into the hotel and settled their belongings. They both collapsed on the bed they'd be sharing, taking in their surroundings. For dinner, we hit up Texas Roadhouse, where I playfully groaned as Karen opted for a salad. Wendy, on the other hand, made me proud with her steak order and a side of loaded baked potato. Sometimes, you just have to indulge. The evening was spent catching up on their lives. Karen had a new boyfriend. His name was Rob, and he shared a few classes with her. She showed me a picture. He seemed nice enough, but knowing how teenage boys can be. Eventually, I nudged them to wrap up their homework. I spent the rest of the evening browsing online, relieved that my frustrations had only cost me time with my daughters, not my relationship with them. Every so often, our eyes would meet, we'd exchange smiles, and then return to our activities. It was genuinely pleasant. The next morning, after dropping them at school, I braced myself for the drive to my old home to see Paulen. Honestly, I questioned the necessity. We'd been divorced for years. I was ready to discuss our children, now more than ever willing to be involved in their lives despite the distance. But I suspected Paulen had other topics in mind. Paulen was waiting as I approached the front door, a glass of water prepared for each of us. We sat at the kitchen table, a site of many past conversations, including the difficult one where she announced our divorce. Thanks for showing up, Sam. I know this wasn't something you were eager to do. If we're not here to talk about the kids or figure out a way for me to see them more, then I really don't see why we're bothering. Polly. Sam, it's been 4 years since we've actually talked. I know you were deeply hurt, and a part of me that still cares for you felt that pain too. But after all this time, I thought maybe the anger would have subsided. It seems like it hasn't, not even a bit. Why would my anger subside? Did anything change? No, nothing at all. You broke our trust. She tried to cut in, but I stopped her. Regardless of when it happened, you broke the vow of our marriage. You were dishonest about your whereabouts. You invested enough time and emotion in him to decide to leave me. You tore our family apart. He tore our family apart. You left me to face financial difficulties and limited time with our daughters, while you moved on to a better situation. It just happened that way, Sam. My decision to be with David wasn't about financial gain. We genuinely love each other and are happy. That may be fine for you, but it changes nothing for me. Am I supposed to be happy just because you found happiness? No, of course not. I was just trying to say that hurting you or gaining financially was never my motivation. It's just how things ended up. Great, wonderful, I'm thrilled for you. It's comforting to know that appending my life hasn't been hard on you. That's exactly my point. You're set on painting me as the villain, as if I did all this just to cause you pain. That's not the case at all. Intent or not, the outcome should have been obvious to you. What usually happens in a divorce? The mom ends up with the kids, and the dad becomes a visitor. That was out of my hands. I couldn't keep my frustration in check any longer and slammed my hand down. Absolutely not, it could have been avoided. For you to develop feelings for Dave, you had to have been open to it. Every moment you spent with him, every secret meeting, was a betrayal of our marriage. And you did nothing. Absolutely nothing to prevent it from happening. I'm not sure what you're expecting from this conversation, Paulen, but if you're hoping for some kind of friendship to blossom between us, you're going to be let down. I'll make an effort to remain polite when we're in the same vicinity, but that's as far as I'm willing to go. Sam, you're correct, and I apologize. I made a mistake, and I regret it. But, Sam, I really wish we could move beyond this. I'm aware that I've caused you pain, and I recognize that. Can't we find a way to leave the past behind, even if it's been a few years? I'm not asking you to forget, just to possibly forgive. Despite feeling provoked, I tried to keep my cool, though I found her request quite absurd. She just didn't seem to understand the situation. Paulen, because of your actions and his, I ended up living like I was barely scraping by for years. Food was scarce, and my living conditions were dismal, in a neighborhood I wished I could escape. How was I supposed to know that, Sam? You didn't know because you didn't bother to find out. You were well aware of my earnings, my living situation, and the rent prices that were openly available. You knew about the child support. It was a matter of simple math, Paulen. but you didn't care enough to see how I was living. You had your life and your new partner to keep you comfortable, so my well-being was of no concern to you. I thought the girls would mention something if there was an issue. That's because you chose to ignore the reality. The girls never mentioned anything because they didn't know. I ensured they saw a well-stocked home whenever they visited. The rest of the time, I survived on the cheapest meals possible. I even saved every penny to make their visit special and to afford a simple luxury they wanted, which you nonchalantly provided, undermining my efforts. You know what? Forget about being polite. If we're ever in the same space again, do me a favor and keep your distance. Sam, I am at a loss for words. Is there anything else you want to say, Paulen? This might be your only opportunity. Sam, all I can do is apologize. I truly didn't realize how difficult things were for you, and it's clear I never took the time to understand. I wrongly assumed you'd speak up if things were really that bad. Right, as if the embarrassment of being left for someone else wasn't enough. I should have also shared how hard it was making ends meet. Paulen took a deep breath, as if she was sorting through her thoughts. I nearly left the room, eager to escape the tension, but a part of me was determined to see this discussion through to its conclusion. Sam, you're right. I didn't try to see things from your angle, and I guess ignoring the truth made things easier for me. I already felt bad enough, and pretending you were okay seemed to ease my conscience. So, you chose to live in your own version of reality, ignoring the actual situation. I asked, a hint of sarcasm in my voice. It was foolish of me to hope that everything would just go back to the way it was, that we could all be friends again. Yeah, that was wishful thinking. But we've got our daughters to think about. I'd like us to figure out a way for me to spend time with them, maybe during summer and holidays. Of course, Sam, I wouldn't dream of keeping them from you, as long as you're doing well. We'll sort something out. Though the conversation was tough, I was relieved it was over. I realized all those times Paulen had casually asked about my well-being during our daughter's pickup were just her way of dealing with her guilt. It wasn't about me, it was about making herself feel better about her decisions. After school, I took the girls to play mini golf. We didn't keep score but had a blast. Back at the hotel, they tackled their homework while I ordered pizza. Over dinner, it was my turn to field questions. I shared stories about my life in North Carolina, carefully skipping over my less proud moments and expressing regret for past mistakes. They reassured me, excited about future visits. When I mentioned Holly, they were surprised to hear I was seeing someone who was expecting, prompting a curious conversation. Dad, Wendy chuckled, it's like you're almost starting fresh. That's a whole new 18 years. You do realize you're nearly 40, right? Her teasing smile was a comfort. Our banter was a cherished part of our relationship, and I was glad it remained intact. I might be forgetting things at my age. I'm already planning on a custom wheelchair so I can keep up with the kiddo, I joked. Laughter filled the room, a wonderful reminder of the joy in our reunion. After dinner, we settled back into our respective routines. I lost myself in the world of the internet, careful not to disturb their concentration on homework with the noise of the television, which didn't seem appealing anyway. Once they were tucked into bed, dreaming peacefully, I found a quiet moment to call Holly. We spent the hour reconnecting, sharing whispers of affection and longing. I spoke of my hopes to spend more time together, and she shared her excitement at the thought of meeting them. With hearts full, we said goodnight, and I drifted off to sleep, hopeful for the future. The visit continued smoothly, filled with outings to dinner on Friday and engaging in bowling and miniature golf on Saturday, activities that allowed us to make the most of our time together without the interruption of school schedules. My departure was looming on early Sunday, so every moment felt precious. They showed no signs of wishing to be elsewhere, fully immersed in our time together. Sunday morning came too quickly, and after dropping them off, I hesitantly entered the house to bid farewell to Paulen, making an effort to maintain a positive presence. Dave remained conspicuously absent throughout my visit, a silent shadow in the background of our gathering. The journey back was a mix of emotions. Leaving my girls was tough, yet the anticipation of reuniting with Holly offered a sweet solace. Arriving at her place, I was greeted by Barb, who hinted with a playful smile that Holly was eagerly awaiting me. Opening the door, I found Holly, an embodiment of warmth and invitation, her greeting a tender whisper of our missed connection. We embraced, our reunion marked by a profound intimacy and a shared joy that transcended words. The intensity of our connection mirrored the depth of our feelings, a testament to the time apart. Eventually, the quiet knock and Barb's gentle teasing called us back to the world beyond the door. Holly and I exchanged a look of contentment, tinged with a hint of shyness, before dressing to join her for dinner. By the time June made its entrance, I'd found a new rhythm living with Holly and Barbara. Since I was practically spending every night there, when it came time to renew my lease, I let it lapse. It was a financial relief, though I made it a point to chip in for household costs. With the school year wrapping up for the girls at the end of May, I arranged for them to visit for a couple of weeks in mid-June. This gave them a chance to enjoy a brief hiatus with their friends before joining me in North Carolina for Father's Day. Holly embraced them wholeheartedly, and the feeling was mutual. While my days were consumed by work, Holly filled theirs with little adventures, from spa days to movie outings, anything to make their stay memorable. Karen and Wendy would share their daily escapades with me, bursting with curiosity about when I'd pop the question. I let them in on the secret that I had the ring, just waiting for the perfect moment. I think they loved being part of the secret. Saying goodbye at the airport at the end of June was tough, tears all around. I hoped to have them visit again before school resumed in August, but it was all up in the air, with the next definite visit not until Thanksgiving. With my work schedule and Holly nearing her due date, planning a trip to Texas to see them seemed increasingly complex. Nevertheless, we planned to celebrate the 4th of July, deciding to join in on Tim's gathering. Arriving at Tim's, he welcomed us by name, revealing to me for the first time that he and Holly were acquaintances, a detail that had never come up since I seldom discussed work outside the office. As others filed in behind us, our conversation was brief, though Tim did extend his well wishes to Holly about the pregnancy. Once inside, we mingled for a bit until I went to fix a plate for Holly and myself. Holly's appetite had grown insatiable lately, and even as I piled the plate high, I knew my share would be modest. While I was scooping up some macaroni salad, Tim approached. "You never mentioned Holly was the one you were with," he began. "I didn't think it was relevant," I replied. "I only found out today that you two knew each other." He explained how they had crossed paths through mutual acquaintances, mentioning Holly's attendance at last year's Halloween party. Mid-sentence, he trailed off, lost in thought. After a moment, I nudged him back to the present. "What's on your mind, Tim?" He came back to reality, still wearing a thoughtful expression. "How far along is she?" he asked. "About 8 months. Why, it's just, Sam, do you remember the Halloween party?" "Some of it, I suppose. I was still drinking then, so not much." "Why do you ask?" "Well, you might not recall, but you and Holly spent some time together that night. I noticed you two slipping away into one of the spare rooms." "Hold on there, my friend. If there's one thing I do recall, it's that my companion for the evening had dark hair. Holly, as we both know, is quite the blonde." But Holly was in disguise as Wonder Woman that night, complete with a dark wig. Plus, she wore a mask like everyone else. I paused, letting this new information sink in. Perhaps it was a wig. But, assuming Holly and I shared a moment that night, before we truly knew each other, I failed to see the point of this discussion. "All right, assuming you're correct. What's your point?" "Here's the thing, Sam. Holly had just ended a long-term relationship a few months prior, and her ex had left her for someone younger. It's safe to say neither of you were in the best place at the time. I'm not privy to the details of Holly's personal life or if there were others she was seeing at that time, or even that night." "Tim, why are you bringing this up?" "The thing is, Sam, that party was 8 months ago, and Holly's 8 months pregnant. Sam, that child might be yours." The weight of Tim's words hit me like a ton of bricks. Could that actually be possible? Holly and I hadn't delved deep into our pasts. She knew about my previous marriage and my brief escape into drinking, but we hadn't touched on our individual encounters before meeting or how she became pregnant. It was time we talked about it. I left the food I had been holding and went to find Holly. She was chatting with some friends and greeted me with a smile. "I thought you were bringing back some food, honey. I'm quite hungry. Gotta eat for two, you know." "I know, but we need to have a conversation." Taking her hand, I led her to one of the spare rooms, possibly the very one where Wonder Woman and I had shared a moment months before. Seeing my serious expression, Holly immediately sensed the urgency. "Sam, what's going on?" she inquired as I motioned for her to sit beside me on the bed. "Holly, I've never pried into the story behind your pregnancy. I've always respected it as your private matter, trusting you'd share if you wanted. But now, I'm finding myself in a place where I need to ask. I've always seen it as my personal affair too. May I know why you feel the need to delve into it now? Do you trust me, Holly?" "Without a doubt, Sam. With everything. I have my reasons, which I promise to share with you afterward. But for now, could you just tell me about it?" She paused, deep in thought, then looked up and began to share. "Terry and I had split a few months prior. We were together for a long time, and he always claimed that a marriage certificate wasn't necessary for a lifelong commitment. Then, he left me for someone younger, which left me shattered. And what did you do? Where some might have reacted by seeking attention from others, I withdrew. I became a recluse, neglecting offers of support. I was deeply hurt and allowed myself to spiral. My mom tolerated it for a while but eventually encouraged me to get back into the world. I ended up agreeing to attend a Halloween party hosted by Tim, a casual acquaintance, after my friends explained my situation to him. He has a knack for remembering people. I'm not much of a drinker, so it didn't take much for me to feel the effects that night. At the party, there was someone I found myself drawn to, and one thing led to another in a private room. He's the father of my child. I'm sorry, Sam. I never intended to share this with you. It's all right, Holly, truly. Now, I have to ask something very personal, and I need you to understand there's a reason behind it, okay? Okay, are you certain he's the father? I mean, was there absolutely no one else during that time? Her expression turned quizzical, her curiosity piqued by my line of questioning. For a moment, I worried she might react badly or simply refuse to answer, but then she responded. No, Sam, it was just me after Terry and I split, up until that special night we shared. And the guy, can you describe him? I'm not too sure. He was taller and fit, but we were all disguised with costumes and masks. What was he dressed as? Sam, why? Please, Holly, it matters. He was in this Scottish outfit. Wore a baggy white shirt and what's it called? The skirt-like thing. A kilt. Right, a kilt. And this hat that sort of looked like a beret. Plus he had this silly set of children's toy bagpipes. As she spoke, I was scrolling through my phone for the photos I remembered. When I found them, I showed her the screen. Did he look like this? Her eyes went wide as she saw the photo and jumped up. That's him. What's happening, Sam? Why do you have his photo? I've been patient, but you need to explain now. Listen, I didn't mean to upset you. I had to be sure before I could say anything. Sure of what, exactly? Holly. That's me in the photo. She looked as if I had just delivered the most shocking news imaginable. Luckily, there was a chair right there because she practically collapsed into it, overwhelmed. What? Was all she managed to say. Tim snapped that photo at the party last year. Holly, darling, I think you might be carrying my child. Holly just looked at me, her eyes wide with shock. I couldn't help but wonder what was going through her mind. I gave her a moment, knowing she needed time to take it all in. To be honest, I was still trying to wrap my head around it too. She finally shifted her gaze downward, a thoughtful look crossing her face as she glanced at her stomach, then back up at me. Is this really your baby? It seems so. I can't believe it, Sam. Dreams do come true, don't they? What do you mean? I was a bit slow on the uptake, not quite following her train of thought. Since the day we met, I've been hoping against hope that this child was yours, that it wasn't just a fluke. I knew you might not care either way, which is one of the countless reasons I adore you. But deep down, I wished for this child to truly be ours, and now, it really is. Oh Sam, you've made me so incredibly happy. A final update. Holly and I tied the knot in a simple ceremony at the courthouse, just in time before our new addition, Ashley Barbara Beckman, made her entrance into the world. Once Holly was back on her feet after the birth, we threw a big celebration to mark the occasion. To everyone's surprise, Barbara took a different path by marrying a retiring partner from the firm and embarking on a new adventure of traveling in a motor home. She generously left her house to Holly and shared with me, in strict confidence, that she had been waiting for Holly to make up her mind about her life before she herself could move on. It seemed her social life had quietly simmered down to a meaningful relationship with just one person. With our ties to North Carolina being only my job, Holly and I decided to move back to Texas to be closer to my daughters. Thanks to my experience, I landed a much better position with a significant pay increase, which allowed Holly to dedicate herself to being a full-time mom. And with 2 more kids joining our family, her hands were more than full. During our 3-year stint in North Carolina, Tim, my friend, hadn't settled down and didn't seem inclined to. But after moving back to Texas for 2 years, we were surprised to receive a wedding invitation from him, with an unfamiliar bride's name. Attending the wedding, we met his bride, Cassie, who was a stark contrast to what I had imagined Tim would choose. Cassie was petite, with a warm smile and a genuine, down-to-earth charm. Despite initial impressions, it was clear that the bond between her and Tim was strong and filled with love, making Tim visibly the happiest I'd ever seen him. Back in Austin, Karen had started her college journey at UT, and Wendy was wrapping up her final year of high school, weighing her college options. I supported her in choosing what felt right, promising my support no matter what. Meanwhile, Paulen and Dave were facing challenges in their marriage, stemming from trust issues related to past indiscretions. Whether these concerns were founded or simply fears materializing with more time spent together, it seemed like a twist of fate might be at play. While it wasn't a primary concern of mine, part of me couldn't help but see it as a peculiar twist of karma. My comment: Paulen tends to focus a lot on herself, which leaves me worrying about the future, especially about who will walk the girls down the aisle at their weddings. Given Paulen's nature, I can't help but foresee some drama brewing. There's a chance she might stir up trouble without realizing it.